Welcome to Elon Beyond the Bricks, the podcast that takes you behind the scenes of Elon University to explore the stories, ideas, and innovations shaping our community. Each episode will talk to individuals who are making a difference in the world and explore the values and experiences that make Elon so special. We hope you'll find stories that inspire and challenge you, and perhaps even spark new ideas of your own. Join us as we dive into conversations that go beyond the classroom and into the lives of our remarkable students, alumni, parents, faculty, and staff. Thanks for joining.
Hello and welcome to Elon Beyond the Bricks. I'm Connie Book, president here at Elon, and today we're talking with Zora Stephenson, class of 2015. Zora played on the women's basketball team while she was a student, and over the last decade has built an incredible career in sports journalism. Today, she serves as on-air talent for NBC Sports, covering women's basketball and football for the Big Ten. She also covered the Summer Olympics. You may remember seeing her in Paris last year. And she also did the Winter Olympics in Beijing back in 2022. And I was so impressed as I watched her interview some of the most recognized names in sports. Zora, welcome to the show. I'm really excited to have a chance to talk with you.
Dr. Book, this is an honor. Thank you for having me. Anything Elon gets me really jazzed up. So I'm excited to be here.
So I want to start, Zora, by just asking about your arrival at Elon. I'm a little curious. I haven't heard this story about how you were recruited to play at Elon and landed here.
Yeah, when I was in high school, I was getting a lot of different letters from all over. Back then, you still got paper mail from coaches, right. And so I remember getting a letter in the mail, and I grew up in Northern Virginia. And I opened it, and I have to be honest, I said, Elon, where is this? What is this? And I had a number of visits in the North Carolina area set up, and my parents really encouraged me to see as many campuses as possible because they just wanted me to have a lot of information to make an informed decision. And so we kind of sneaked Elon in on our list one day, and and this is why you go and you visit a campus. I got on the campus and I had not felt that comfortable anywhere else. And you have to imagine, you're 15, 16 years old, you're talking to coaches and professors, and I know it's hard to imagine, but I was shy and I wasn't really, that engaged on every visit. But at Elon, it felt right. I didn't have to think about it. I just felt
And did you already know you were looking for sports journalism? Did you already lean that way?
I did. Yeah, I knew I wanted a good communication school. And Dr. Book, what was interesting, this was like the only place on my visit that they put a priority on the academic side of things. As a student athlete, you're going and you're doing visits for basketball, and Elon knew that I wanted to do communications. And so they had a whole tour set up at the School of Communication.
Oh, yeah, that's great.
And I was just amazed because I just saw all the different things that I could do. And I left that day and I said, I'm going to Elon. I didn't even go anywhere else.
I had a similar experience, so I totally get it. When I interviewed for a teaching job here back in 1999, had the same moment on campus that many of our, alums describe having when they first experience Elon. So I have so many questions, Zora. So I'm going to try to keep us on track because it has been such an incredible career for you. I remember watching you play and then the TV sports jobs. I think you were in Colorado the first time that I talked to you about your interviewing and all. So can you just reflect on that rise that's happened? And I'm going to talk specifically about some other things with the Milwaukee Bucks, but just your launch into sports journalism.
I think it's a great example of preparation meeting opportunity, and you need a little luck, right? Things have to line up. I started in local news, like so many of the broadcast journalism students. We would go to these small towns and we carry our gear around and we run around a city. And I did that for 2 years in Greenville, North Carolina. I did it in Denver, Colorado. And then I said, Zora, remember what the dream was? And so I started doing sports on the side. I would call D2 games in Denver, Colorado. I would drive up to the University of Colorado Boulder and cover their women's basketball games. I taught my husband how to use a camera. We were just kind of trying to figure it out. And I would just send my tape out to everyone I knew. And then the Milwaukee Bucks called, and that job really changed everything for me.
I can remember that moment when I learned that you were at the Milwaukee Bucks, and you were the first woman. I remember reading it to handle play-by-play. So you were entering this world of which traditionally men were doing that. And then it happened to be that when you joined that year, Milwaukee Bucks were everywhere because they won the NBA championship. So that definitely was a breakthrough moment, right? First in play-by-play, and then to be there, this moment of the NBA championship. Tell us how that experience, impacted you.
Yeah, well, it was an example of a lot of people seeing something in me that I didn't see in myself. For so long, I just saw myself. And when there's nothing wrong with being, singularly a sideline reporter, but that's what I saw myself as. And I had a couple of mentors say, you should really try play-by-play. And I was like, I just hadn't seen anyone that really looked like me doing it, sounded like me. And it's hard to go after something when you don't necessarily have a lot of examples. What's amazing is there are more and more examples of women doing play-by-play every single year. There's some amazing trailblazers, and I got that opportunity, and then NBC called, and so then everything trickles from there. And yeah, for it to happen the same year that the team wins the championship, and the cherry on top is hosting a championship parade with 100,000 people in downtown Milwaukee, that was a surreal experience.
Well, too, what I also remember, Zora, is this is a really emotional time. So let's, sports, I think, often has the heart and soul of America right in the middle of it. So here you are in Milwaukee, which is the epicenter it's COVID. So let's set the stage. It's COVID. Milwaukee is having the George Floyd protest, and you had the Black Lives Matter movement happening. It's just a lot happening during this period of time. And our country, sports is disrupted, right? COVID had disrupted it. And so then you have all this passion happening around sports. And what I remember is watching you do some sideline interviews that were so emotional. And I want to talk about that for a minute because even your Olympics coverage, you're in these moments of great physical achievement, so emotional. And sometimes the backdrop of what's happening outside the stadium or the basketball arena is so emotional as well. So can you talk about how you have so much grace, and I'm curious about how you're handling those moments of such deep emotion.
Yeah, well, we're humans at the end of the day. Yes, these are larger than life athletes, whether it's in the NBA or Simone Biles, doing gymnastics, but they're humans with great triumph and things that they care about, and they've all been through something. And so that's how you connect them to the viewer, right? Because, Dr. Book, you probably can't relate to Simone Biles and all the flips that she does, right? But you can relate to somebody going after their dreams and facing adversity and still trying to stay at it, right? And so that's what I always remember. And no, I was not a professional athlete, nowhere near on their stage, but I know what it's like to go out there and achieve. I know what it's like to go out on a court and fail. And so I just always try to bring that athlete mindset, but more than anything else, a human, right? We've got to be humans, whether it's news journalism or sports journalism, because that's what we all are at the end of the day.
Yeah, it's really something because you're capturing people at the highest moments of success and at the lowest points when they have prepared and not been successful. I can't even bring myself to say failure. See, not been successful because, this is so heartfelt. Can you connect the dot for us of being an Elon basketball player and the lessons learned at Elon academically or as in your athletics, just the lessons of Elon and how those are appearing in this work?
Those lessons are endless. It's hard to put it all into a couple sentences because whether it was on the basketball court, my freshman year, I barely played, right? And then going into my sophomore year, I started junior and senior year captain. So the growth there and learning how to deal with different types of people from all over the country. I had people on my team from California and of course North Carolina, but up north and farther south, right? And so you learn public speaking. I mean, so many things you learn just as a student athlete, time management, and then one of the unique parts of Elon that I mentioned when I went on my initial visit is that they want you to be a well-rounded human being, no matter the reason why you were introduced to the university. So yes, maybe I did go there because of basketball, but that was not the only thing I did. I mean, I was a resident assistant, I was a tour guide, involved in Greek life. All those things help shape me so much. And I feel like I thrive when I have a lot of things going on. And I know a bunch of Elon students would probably, empathize with that. That's just the kind of people that thrive on campus. So yeah, it was just learning. It was growing up, really. I
It
grew
is.
up on
I
my
always say
campus.
that, we really love 18 to 22-year-olds. Not everybody, some parents are like, go, go when they turn 18. But there is so much independence and self-awareness that happens in that age as you find out what you're passionate about and branch out into new relationships. And so I understand what you're saying. It really is a time of experience and growing up. So you have said in other things that I've watched and read that the WNBA helped you fall in love with the game of basketball and that
Yeah.
it also strengthened your relationship with your dad. So tell me a little bit about that and what it means to cover basketball today.
Yeah, growing up, my dad got us season tickets to go see the Washington Mystics in DC. And it just became one of the things that we did in the summer. I grew up in the suburbs of Virginia. We'd take the metro down to the city and go see the Mystics. And
It's
those were the
fun.
first professional athletes that I got to see in person. And then we even took a step back. When I was in middle school, every Friday night, we would go to high school girls' basketball games. That was just our thing, and a way that we bonded and strengthened our relationship. And I remember going to those games and now being able to cover them is surreal. It is, I take it as a huge responsibility to make sure that I bring my best
And
professional
boy, is
self.
it getting a lot of attention, right? Suddenly
Yeah.
the arenas are full, and it's a really exciting time for women's basketball, professionally and collegiate.
It's emotional too, because I played in a lot of empty gyms. And so now you're going to these events where they're packed, standing room only, and it's what the game deserves. So I'm really grateful to be a part of it.
What's your thought on? I mean, I know you're watching, especially with your experience with college athletics, a lot of changes since you were a college athlete. So have I find myself in states of grief sometimes about the changes, but then other times, like I understand it, and so I'm just curious, what are your thoughts about college athletics and as a former student athlete looking back?
Yeah, I'm happy for the athletes today that they get to develop brands and make money. And I think, especially if they're bringing in revenue for universities, they should get a piece of that. So I agree with a lot of it. The conference realignments are hard to keep up with.
Yes.
Especially in North Carolina, these conferences run deep. And so it's different when, you see teams from the West Coast with a
Stanford's coming
conference.
to play Duke.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. That takes some getting used to. But isn't life all about change and evolving? And so I'm sure years from now, we'll look at it and now it'll feel more normal. But
Yeah, that's
yeah,
true.
I think
Yeah.
a state of grief is okay because it's different and it's an and situation. It's different and you're happy for the athletes that they get the autonomy to develop.
Now, some of the conferences, like, Elon, we are D1, but it's a different kind of D1 than the ACC or the SEC. So, I think we're still learning a lot about how a conference like Elon will position itself in this new world of name, image, and likeness. And yeah, and what I love about your story, quite honestly, is that you stayed and that you have a degree from Elon and that seeing your professional success. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed that that we can continue to keep Elon student athletes, even if they play at a high level here and engaged in this 4-year experiential model. And selfishly, the student athlete brings so much to our campus community, in so many ways, just from their commitment to human performance. It just is a whole different dynamic, and really enjoy having those students here on our campus.
I do want to add one thing, because you brought up a great point about the 4-year experience. And I don't think I would have had, if you jump around and transfer and you're here 1 year and it's gone the next, it is a much different experience. And the relationships that I was able to build over 4 years, I'm talking about my husband, my best friends, professors that I still keep in touch with, that is something that is unique to a 4-year experience.
Yeah, and that when I think about grief, that's actually the piece that I'm grieving the most, is that, I get attached, not just watching them play either, but watching their impact on our community and the relationship that piece. And I know our coaches feel the same way, but I also think you're right that we all understand the impact that these monies can have on students. And of course, when you're watching, especially in the power conferences, the revenue they're distributing and the power of that, you wish them the best and in their efforts to reap as much as they can during their years as a student athlete. So I want to hear what's next for you and what your plans are. So much success so early. What are your plans?
When we were first setting up today, I said that I'm in a position professionally that is beyond my wildest dreams. I always knew I wanted to be on TV. I always knew that I wanted to cover athletes, high-level athletes. And originally it was in the sideline reporter role, which I still do at a high level. Now you add play-by-play, and I'm adding football and gymnastics, and I've done all these sports that I did not envision myself being a part of. An employee at a national network that has some of the biggest packages in the country. It's, right now I just want to perfect my craft. Right? I want to get really, really good at storytelling on the sidelines. I want to bring people observations that they can't see through the television. As a play-by-play, I want to be the very best at captioning moments. And if that continues to lead brick by brick, upward trajectory, that's great. But right now I feel like I'm in a space of growth.
That's so well said. And, Zora, I can see it takes real talent to be able to have people trust enough in that moment to disclose some of the very things that we're so inspired by, the highs and lows and the storytelling that you're drawing from those student athletes. It is a craft. It takes lots of skills. So I love hearing you say that that's where your focus is, that you're really invested in being at the top of your game in that area, because it is remarkable when I watch you interview folks that you are setting the stage for that powerful kind of storytelling. So I know I can even see the name Zora on some good TV show. I don't know, where you're going to land, but it's going to be good. That's what I'm confident of.
I appreciate that.
Well, thank you very much for taking time out to talk with us on Beyond the Bricks. I'm always inspired by the work of Elon alums, and it was great to have you here talking about all the things you've been doing since you've graduated. We're so proud of you, and you represent Elon so well in all of it. Thank you, Zora.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of Elon Beyond the Bricks. Please subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode, and leave a review to help others discover the conversations that matter. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time.